Hello and very warm welcome to you. We're going to look at two devices today that have just come in basically this week. Really, it's been a really quick turnaround. I've got here the Bigme B1051C, which is the new color e-ink tablet from Bigme, and I've got the Boox Palma 2, which is an improved version of the Palma 1 with a fingerprint reader this time. Is the big headline there. And well, I'm going to start and I'm going to look at the Palma 2, and I'm going to be comparing that to some other key devices in that kind of category of tiny front pocket, jeans pocket e-readers, if you like. And I have been having a really good time reading on this. It's pretty much just living as my Kindle. I'm pretty much just using it with the Wi-Fi off where possible, although I'm going to talk about my workflow with that just shortly while it was on just there. And pretty much just using it as an e-reader that's just ready to go all times with page turn buttons. And I'm really enjoying this. And just before recording this with you, I've been reading with my daughter, and she reads her Kindle, I read my whatever I'm reading on at that time, and I've been really enjoying that, absolutely. Now, one thing about it I want to say is somebody mentioned maybe the screen is more sunken in than the black one. Apologies, forgot to make sure that camera is rolling all the time. It has been mentioned that the screen seems to be more indented than the previous one. So I've got the previous one just here. Now I think seams is the right word there, because that's difficult to show through on the camera, but I think that actually the gap is the same with the black and the white one. It's just that it appears to be larger because the white, and then you get this contrast of this shadow here to see underneath it. But I have to also say that because you aren't using a stylus, I don't think you really notice that in use with the Palma at all. I don't think that takes away any of the clarity. And maybe that's one of the reasons why it does appear to have an incredibly clear front light and incredibly clear reading. It is really nice for that reading, incredibly clear reading experience indeed. So what are you interested to see compared tonight? Let me know. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to talk about the Palma first, but then we'll come back to this. This is the Bigme B10.5, and I've just put up my members testing footage, and yesterday I put up my sort of unboxing and first thoughts about the Bigme, and we're going to talk about that in just a little while. One of the things which I'll talk about will be this case. They seem to have copied like the worst part of the Boox Go 10.3 case there as well. So we will talk about that. I'll just get that nicely on screen, and we will talk about the Palma 2 first. Firstly, some standout features. Fingerprint or thumbprint reader is really good. You don't have to actually press it. You can just hold it to it. And I've been really enjoying that it's just a case now. If you put it in your pocket like so, you can pull it out without having to put in a PIN code. And most of the time, fingerprint readers always have stage fright on live streams, I find. Most of the time, you're straight up and read in immediately. And I really like that. I do really like that. You do need to have some sort of security if you're going to be logged in to Google Play, in my opinion. I'm going to turn off that auto rotate because that's doing my head in now. I also like the smart button. That by default, on this side there's another button, which that by default is mapped to screen refresh, but you can actually change that to whatever you want it to be. So you have the option down here, smart button there, and you've got one press, double press, or long press to choose from. So you can actually choose what you want that to do each time. And actually I looked through the options that you've got, and you've got lots of different options. Back, screenshot, all the different things, all the things I don't really use, but what I decided to use it with was just launch an app. So I actually have it to launch Kindle by a one press. Double click would actually launch Google Docs, because I like using Google Docs on here, and that's quite nice. And then long press will launch Otter. And actually what I'm thinking about using this device for, so there's Otter there, and actually this is the way in which I recorded and used and came up with this little script-ish, this outline that I'm reading from and presenting to you from today. I actually recorded into the Boox Palma. I recorded into Otter, I recorded my thoughts about each of these different sections, and then I've been able to put that either straight into OneNote on here, or from the Otter in the browser on my computer, pop that into OneNote, and then I've got my transcript of the things that I've been talked about, and I can just go through. I've just gone through this before on my computer and just edited things, make sure I've been happy with what I'm going to say, and hey presto, I've come up with a presentation in quite an enjoyable time with this really nice e-ink device, and in not a lot of time at all. So the smart button, very useful for my little workflow that I'm developing with this device. I'm going to focus on the smart button. The smart button, very useful, not just for refreshing. And in any case, what I'm finding is that I don't need to refresh it very much, because it has the Boox Super Refresh and it has the balanced mode. And that is a very, very balanced mode. That is very useful, that it just immediately is, it's clearing out any ghosting. You see it's gone. It's only having to do, full screen refreshes very occasionally as it zips around this device. This is really fast, really clear e-ink, which is very, very nice. Now, one thing that we must say about this as well is that this is, a very good performance device compared to the other e-ink phone-sized e-readers that I'm going to look at today. And it is in line with the sort of use that you'll be used to, how quickly you can get around on your smartphone. So I do kind of appreciate that actually the performance is good enough. It doesn't feel laggy. It doesn't feel slow, that you can zip around between the different apps in that kind of way that you're used to, at the same pace that you'll be used to on a smartphone. I don't feel like this very slow to load, even things that aren't loaded up, into the memory. And then you can use the recents to really quickly get around the open apps. It does have good performance in line with what you'll be used to on other smartphones. Now, saying that as well, also it's one of the few devices that has Google Play. Not a lot of e-ink devices have Google Play, and sort of things seem to work. I wonder if Microsoft Word seems to work on here, and that will become apparent why I'm talking about that in the future. Well, it's not working because I've turned the Wi-Fi off to conserve a little bit of battery. Try that again, please. Yeah, Word seems to work on there, so I'll just install that in the background, as you would expect to do on a smartphone. However, it isn't a smartphone, and that is one of the limitations. And I feel the frustration for some of you guys in the chat, in the comments. I feel your frustration that you were hoping that the Palma 2 would have the mobile connectivity, and I feel with that one, because I would go straight to this as my one and done e-ink phone, and I would be using this all the time. I don't think I could get away without any kind of mobile LCD or OLED device, but I would live with this as my main phone. I really would. And yeah, you have to, if you want to use it in a mobile way, then you have to deal with doing things like hotspotting. But I'm going to suggest that most of the time you're going to use this just to be a little reader in your pocket. And then you're only going to, and you're going to use it in that kind of mindful way that you're picking this so that you spend less time connected. And lastly, just to say, it's a little bit larger than a lot of the other ones. And that is probably a good thing in terms of it as a reader. But I find one of the things I like about this sort of form factor is that you actually is fitting in your hand really quite well. And it's probably a little bit too large for me. Or it's not too large, it's the right way. It's a little bit larger than I would really ideally like. And then when you put it in a case, it becomes larger still. And that's a little bit too large for me and my pockets. That being said, I do carry around the Fold, which is obviously just as large, but probably I don't use it folded up like this very often, and probably it's a little bit thinner. I think this is quite wide, which is better for reading, but worse for being that one-handed view, in my opinion. So in that case, the ergonomics aren't amazing. I find that the fingerprint reader button is just a little bit more of a reach than I'd really like it to be. I probably prefer it to be sort of midway up the device, where it is on the foldable here. And it is just a bit of a reach to get up there every single time. And the buttons, the page turn buttons as well, aren't actually perfect. Yeah, it did do it. It did it what I was hoping to show you. You see, that's me pressing it. I've now pressed it a few times. I know where the press is now. You actually have to be quite firm with that as a page turn button to make it turn. And that you can, I think it's one thing you get used to, and you will get used to it. And also you can do it like this is quite nice as well. But I can definitely feel that sometimes I've definitely depressed that button, but it hasn't turned the page. And so I think that's one of the things you'll get used to, you know, that you have to press it a bit harder than you might expect to. But there we are, that's what it is. And also this button here, the way they've done the button on the case is that they've had a tiny little kind of cutout, which compared to the previous case, this is the exact same Palma 1 case, you see, they obviously didn't need a space for the thumbprint to land on the sensor. So they've got a whole button, and then they've decided to give it a bit of a cutout to allow that to press in a little bit more positively, I suppose. But now, unfortunately, when it's in the case, there are times when you think you've pressed down and actually you end up pressing up, which is quite frustrating as well. Again, I think as you use it, if you live with a device like this, you get used to little things like this, and they don't bother you at all in the long run. So yeah, there we are. But I think for me, as I said, my primary use case is going to be reading on it, but then also using it to manipulate some of my Word documents, some of my bits of writing, and I'll be able to use this for typing with my little portable keyboard, or, you know, when I'm traveling as well, or just using it and editing it, things. I've installed the Gboard on it now. So it's really nice. It's too nice to type on, or to use the voice recognition straight into Google Docs, or of course to use an app like Otter to transcribe your voice and then use AI to repurpose that into any way that you want, into any format that you might want. Cool. So lots of things there, and yeah, Mashup Mic definitely wants it, and it seems like a powerhouse, especially for its size. So we're going to have a little look at one or two other things, and I've had some kind of questions about different things you might compare this to. So let's go ahead and do that next. I agree there, Mike. Absolutely, a little powerhouse for its size. One question was, why get this over something like the Boox Go 6? The Boox Go 6 is a really nice form factor little device. And I'd say out of the two, yeah, sure, for comfortably reading novels, probably this form factor, the little book form factor, which, by the way, is sort of back of the jeans. It's jeans back pocket. It automatically woke up. I don't know why I pressed the button there. Or jeans back pocket kind of reader. And once it is loaded up and booted up, it does return quite quickly. And I finished this just the other day. I enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed reading on the Go 6. Now, the Go 6 is the better screen for reading novels because it's wider. There are no page turn buttons on it though. But this also, the reason it's actually better is because this is the Carta 1300 screen. And Carta 1300 is your better screen in terms of the contrast. But I imagine you're not seeing too much difference there. But I can tell you that the contrast, the text look a little bit darker on the Go 6. Let's just check both of the front lights are right off. They're not. I don't need to do that because the front light's off there. The Boox front light is on automatic there. This Go 6 doesn't have the automatic front light. So if I make the Palma dark, it should brighten up. It hasn't. I do see it. I see it all the time. As I'm moving around from into different scenes, I see it all the time that the front light does change. Is that off? That's definitely on auto. I see the brightness increase all the time. It just doesn't seem to be doing it right now for some reason, because I'm in a live stream. and the front light just isn't coming on, but there we are. But it does, so I don't know why it's not doing that right now. It's come up there, look. You saw it come up. It was up. And actually, it just has it does have a really nice over the piece. It always looks really good because of that automatic front light. Okay, and yeah, this Carta 1300 is really nice, but this doesn't have the Boox Super Refresh, so it doesn't have those really smooth page turns, and it doesn't have as powerful a processor. You see that quite slowly coming out of Kindle, whereas the Palma was much quicker to get out of there. So it is a much zippier little device. This one, though, feels like a book in the hand, and I really like that for reading. Now, also, the Go 6, no wonder it's slower and lower performance. It's over $100 cheaper. It's $149.99 versus $279.99, and so 150 plays 280. So there is a significant difference in the price. So there is a difference in the performance as well. And that makes it the reason to go for the Palma if you want to use other apps. Like if you like the sound of my Otter kind of workflow that I've just described to you, then that is a really neat little workflow that works better on the higher performance device. So don't go for the Go 6 because it is quite slow to get around. The hardware in that respect is a little bit night and day. I can actually go CPU Z on both of them just to have a quick look. Now, I think this is actually reporting wrong. I've been saying it's the Qualcomm Snapdragon 750, but I think it's the 685 on this side over here, which is a significantly better processor than the 665 on this side over here. But in any case, the Palma is doing a better job of getting around. So the Go 6 is cheaper, but it isn't as cheap as maybe a simple Kindle. So it might be an argument for maybe just actually, if you are just going to use it in Kindle, and not go for any other app, although I can pick an app like Chess, for instance, or is only asked about playing Audible. Okay, I showed playing some audio in a previous video, which was, I think I was just playing an Audible excerpt. You can do that here on the Go 6 as well, although there are no speakers on the Go 6. So it's another reason why that it would work well.
This is Audible. Bloomsbury presents Year of the Monkey by
Yeah, so I'm not going to play any more of the Year of the Monkey just now, but you can have the Palma, you can have the Palma just read to you straight out of its two speakers, the bass speaker at the bottom and the earpiece speaker at the top, which are a stereo pair. And you can have, maybe that isn't the light sensor, maybe I've been wrong all this time, and maybe the light sensor is somewhere else. Just saw it come on a little bit there. But you'd need to connect the Go 6 to a Bluetooth speaker or a Bluetooth headset, which you could. No problem to do that. So if you weren't interested in doing Audible and things like that, and you can do Audible books on Kindle, for instance, but you don't have any more choice than that, you could have a podcasting app on here. You could have YouTube Music I use, or what's the one? Spotify everyone uses, of course. And you could do your podcasts or your music and play that, not through these speakers probably, but into headphones or to a Bluetooth speaker. So there's lots more options here with the Palma. It is more like, if you think, what can I do on a smartphone normally? Well, you can probably do that on the Palma, whereas the Go 6 is probably not going to be a great experience, even if it is possible. So the Go 6 then perhaps is a more pure reader, but if you're going to go for a pure reader, why not just go for a simple Kindle? So cheaper still, and the Go 6 look is the same size screen as the simple Kindle. This is the simple Kindle. This is the last generation of simple Kindle. And this is the kids edition, which just means you get it in a nice kids case, essentially. And it's slightly cheaper to buy that way. You don't get so many ads. This is the previous one. So it's the Carta 1200 rather than the Carta 1300 screen. But the simple Kindle is great because of just how quickly it comes back from standby mode. No automatic brightness on the simple Kindle. You have to go up to the Paperwhite for that. But why not just get that simple Kindle? If you just want to read Kindle books, which is most of what I do on the Palma, then yeah, if you honestly just want to read Kindles, and you can Bluetooth to headphones of any sort, and you can read audibles, listen to audibles on here as well. And you've got the excellent Kindle Unlimited to choose from, loads and loads of different books on there. You can see I've just started Ego is the Enemy, and that works really well, nicely to listen on headphones with your simple Kindle. I think they're brilliant. I think they're absolutely excellent. These are 130 quid for the newest one, not even for this one. And the Paperwhite would be up to $180. So sorry, $130 is what it is. I think it's slightly cheaper in pounds. And similarly, the Paperwhite as well for the newer one. So if you wanted to get the previous generation, I'm sure you could do a great deal. And actually, it's still a nice, slim and light device. There's still a lot to like about the simple design of that. And just, you know, if you are not precious with it because it's not an expensive device, just slipping that into any type of pocket would work really quite well. So there's nothing wrong with just going simple Kindle, really. It's definitely a good price saver as well. So I think it's just a cheaper way to get into it. I'll leave that at that, because I think most of us know what a Kindle is like to use, from the awful actual operating system to get around. And there's lots to like about it. You don't, on the simple Kindle though, get the amazing e-ink modes to be able to optimize to different types of content, or just leave it imbalanced and expect it to do a really good job of showing you that content well. But maybe you don't want that. Maybe you actually just want to read Lottie Brooks and just want the opportunity to listen to funny stories for 5-year-olds. Loads of good options on the Kindle, but none of the versatility that you'll get on the Palma. So I don't know, what are you guys thinking? Would you buy the Palma? Would you buy the simple Kindle, or do you own them already? And what do you think? So if you think, well, I definitely want this. I definitely want this form factor, and you want to go cheaper still, then I've got a suggestion for you, which is the Moan Ink Palm. And the Moan Ink Palm is actually a device that I've enjoyed using no end. I really have enjoyed using the Moan Ink Palm. And again, I've pretty much just installed Kindle on it, and that's about it. I had to install Gboard. You know, it was quite a little workaround. Don't buy this from AliExpress and expect it to be, well, load up and you've got Google Play, because you don't have Google Play. So I had to install F-Droid, and then Aurora, and then Kindle, and you know, but now it works. It works in Kindle, and here it is. Let's download something. I mean, I have been reading things on it, but it just hasn't defaulted to anything there. I haven't read on this for a little while, so I've been testing other things. You can see it's a fair bit smaller, so a fair bit less on the page. But there we are. You can see the animations, the page turn animations aren't near as good. I should be able to turn off page turn animations, I don't doubt. Up here, maybe. No, page turn animations are off, so I don't know why it is doing a page turn animation. The little Moan icon is actually a back button as well, which is nice. And you can use the volume keys to change the page, which again is a good thing. And yeah, it's smaller and lighter even than the Boox Palma is. It's one of the, I'm going to show you a fair few of these today, and it is one of the smallest and lightest of them all that I've used. And what I really like about this, and why I actually recommend this, if you've got the inclination to deal with the very heavily not well ported software that you get, although it's got some English menus in there somewhere, but the terrible software, which is just not designed for Western consumption, really. You've got, as long as you're happy to deal with that and get through that, then you get a small, light e-reader that's inexpensive. About £80 is what I spent on this. It came with a little case as well. About £80, and you can really just chuck that in your pocket and not be precious about it at all. So I think it's a really good shout. If you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I just want to get into this, I kind of like the idea of this phone-sized e-reader thing, and I want something that I'm not going to have to be precious about, and I don't want to spend $280, well, you can just spend the $80 and get one of these. So I do think that's worth a shout, actually, if you're just thinking, yeah, tempted, maybe treat myself this year. I want to show you CPU-Z on it as well, because I just downloaded before this live stream today, and it's an Allwinner A23. So Allwinner is a first for me. I've never heard of Allwinner as a chip manufacturer. 4-core, 40 nanometer process. So it is a pretty ancient, a full decade old, this chipset is. It's got 4 cores, look, all of which can clock up to 1.8 gigahertz. There they go. So it is chugging along, frankly. But if all you want it to do is, yeah, you can install a few different things. You can install a few games from F-Droid or from Aurora Store, whatever you fancy, whatever you need. I don't need on this. I'm not using a fingerprint reader on this, and the reason for that is just because, well, it doesn't have a fingerprint reader, but I'm not using a pin code on it because I'm just logged into Kindle, and that's all. So if somebody were to grab this from me, then sure, they could read some books on it. I don't even think they could buy books on it, being as it's the Android app. And there was one other thing I noticed in the CPU-Z was this is Android 8 on here. So if you're interested in the Android versions, well, the Palma is up to now Android 14, which isn't even the latest one. But the Palma is certainly a more recent Android than what we've got on a lot of other e-ink devices. The first Palma 1, is Android 11. So Android 13 on Palma 2 is one of the big upgrades that they've got there as well. So if you want to keep a simple e-reader just to slip into your pocket, then do. Before I did the live stream, I made sure everything's charged up, ready to go and everything, and it was reporting 100% when I turned it on. So I did that thing, I don't know if you remember, but old Android used to do this quite a lot. And it was reporting 100%, and actually it was empty pretty much. It was like 0%. And so, oh, I must have left it charged, and then it died a few moments later. But I did, then it charged up very, very quickly, and it was back now to 95. And actually, the battery life has been really quite good there. It's just optimized to be nice and low power, and it does work quite well. And it's as a travel e-reader, that's something I really enjoyed. Asking how the screen quality is there on the Moan. I don't actually know what e-ink version the Moan is, but the screen quality is fine. It's definitely, again, it's got a very large gap between the e-ink and the actual top of the screen, and I have noticed that a few times. It's shipped with a screen protector, which I put on immediately without even thinking about whether I needed to or not. And then I decided quite quickly to take it off because it really just added another layer that you didn't need. And the layer on top is pretty shiny. So it's not, you can see, I'll just try and catch some reflections there. Yeah, the layer on top is pretty shiny. So you do get some glare. If I should catch that same reflection there. Yeah, it looks like it's impossible for you to read, but I can tell you that's less invasive to my eyes than that more specular glare of the light bulb there as well. So it's pretty good, but there we are. Okay, so, and you've just got to understand that this is not going to be the same experience if you want to do the other things that I've described you can do on the Palma. Of course, you can do anything you can download an app for on the Palma. If you're happy with that just to be your e-reader, then I think this is quite a good shout. And let's not just forget, though, that Boox gives you this amazing experience of e-ink. It is one of the best experiences of e-ink with their e-ink center. If you can be bothered to learn how to use these things here, then you do get really great experience of the e-ink refreshing without, it always does a full refresh when you come out of the e-ink center. I think you might have noticed. But if I go to something where I need to sort of scroll, yeah, I must be in a kind of HD mode there. Don't need to be. It's in balanced mode. you can see it still gets great clarity. I probably need to put the contrast up a little bit in this one. Still getting really great clarity there, and pretty smooth scrolling by e-ink standards. And if the scrolling bothers me, I can go into the ultra fast with very little loss of quality there, look. And it still does the amazing thing of just clearing out the white space. Any other device that doesn't have Boox Super Refresh or the Bigme Auto Clean, which is quite good at doing this, not quite as good. We'll do this in comparison to that later. Any other device that doesn't have that type of thing, you has to do that full refresh to clear out the white space. Okay, so yeah, the screen quality of the Palma is really good. You've only got a couple on the Marming Palm. You've only got a couple of options, just text mode or graphic mode. There is no fast mode, and you've got contrast options there as well, text mode and graphics mode, which don't really do. You know, I'm just using it like I say as a reader, and so text mode is working just fine for me. Okay, and then lastly, what about the Palma 2 versus the Bigme HiBreak? Let's bring in the HiBreak. Now, actually, I think the HiBreak for a lot of you is the choice. I will just pause for one moment and get a couple of cool questions that have come in. Charles Lapointe says, what about has the issue of the white border appears around the screen in dark mode? Yeah, I don't use dark mode on e-ink at all, but let's put it into dark mode, shall we? I think it's got a global dark mode, doesn't it? But maybe it's not there yet. I don't use dark mode on e-ink at all because, well, you don't need to, in my opinion, on e-ink, because it will, you know, you don't have, pardon me, you don't have a lot of like blaring straight at you at any point there as well. You can do that within Kindle app, I suppose, can you? So let's do that. There we are. I know I'm supposedly the expert here, but as I said, I just don't use dark mode because it's not necessary on. Is it on display somewhere? Oh, who knows? Sorry, I'm going to give in with looking at dark mode. My apologies. But I do notice, yeah, the one thing you do notice, because it's got that big gap at the end there, I figured that was what your question was about at first. Because it's got that big gap at the end there, you can actually see when the light's right on, you can actually see a white bar underneath that. So I think that's what you're talking about there. You're talking about this glowing white border around the screen. I can see when it's when the front light is on, I can see the top and bottom, not all the way around the edge, but I can see the white light underneath that end, that top end of the screen when it is when the front light is fully on. I don't know if I can actually show that. Probably can actually. It's going to be too dark. It's going to be too bright for my camera, I'm afraid. But I can see, you can actually see the shadow and then the white light. Just try and pick that out. I can pop this down a bit. There you go. So I think that's possibly what you're talking about. So yes, it does have that issue. It doesn't bother me very much at all, but it is a thing. And if that's something that's definitely going to bother you, then okay, well, if the black didn't have that issue in the previous one, then black probably still doesn't. But apart from that, I don't think there's much difference between the black and the white. Order the Palm 2. Yes, they should show up tomorrow. My plan is to use it for a number of open source software projects, among other things. Are those software projects going to be about using e-ink, or are they just going to be about general software? Be interested to know. But yes, absolutely, using e-ink for that type of programming, that type of development, I think is a really excellent use of e-ink. Just generally anything that involves text on a screen, e-ink's your thing. So yeah, against the Bigme HiBreak, well, the one thing, of course, that is totally missing, well, it's not the one thing, there's a few things missing from the Bigme HiBreak, but the thing that is totally missing is that fingerprint reader, because every single time you unlock it, you have to go ahead and put in a 6-digit PIN, which is quite annoying as well. Now, I don't know also whether it will happen, but this is another thing that will annoy me about the Bigme, is if I get an email, it will be very difficult for me to actually dismiss the notification. So one thing that really does bother me about the Bigme is it quite often, there's just little bits of the software just feels like it doesn't quite fit the screen, or it's, you know, it's just, I mean, let's just take a moment to look at these drop-down menus. And this is just a much nicer developed and designed set of icons than this is. And they've taken the time to get the text right. They've given up on putting any text there at all. That's not the biggest issue, but it's things like that. Just things like, you can see the widgets don't look great in this, whereas they are sized to be a bit nicer here in the quick launcher on Boox. You know, I've added these, but they don't, I mean, this weather widget never worked at all. So it's got widgets, but it's not working as well, really. There's a lot of times like this with the Bigme HiBreak. You're just thinking it's just not that nice an experience to use. And I think one thing that I've said quite a lot recently about Bigme is that they need to focus on their software experience. They need to focus on not the specs of the thing, not what they're offering in terms of here's the latest thing with this that slightly outdoes what Boox has, but it's the same price as Boox. They want to have a really great software experience. And that's where people like Jay comes in and developing great software for e-ink. So that sounds really, really good. It's really interesting. The thing about the HiBreak, of course, is it's an actual phone. And that's the thing that the Palma, if the Palma 2 had mobile connectivity, could make calls and send texts, then I think that this would be a no-brainer. This would be the mobile e-ink device that everybody who's interested in having a more sort of purposeful and more mindful lifestyle, mobile lifestyle, should go for, because this will encourage a habit of reading rather than a habit of scrolling. I think that's a really great thing. It's a really applaudable thing to do. And there aren't any other actual phones on this list. It's the only other phone that I've shown is my OLED Z Fold 3. And the thing is, I've tried and I went wholly over to this, put my main SIM card into this, and it did briefly. I managed without carrying my Z Fold 3. Then I realized there were too many times when I really needed to do something on this essentially portable computer that I have here. And although I can do, did I put OneNote onto this? I don't think I have used OneNote. Although I can do OneNote on this, I just think, gosh, the experience of using OneNote on this phone is just a much more pleasant place to do that. I've got much more real estate. I've just got much. It's gone into the full size version rather than the mobile version. Look, so there's lots of things where I just think this is much more practical than this form factor. Lots of times where that is the case, and after having used that foldable for some time, I couldn't live on a phone of that size, even if it was OLED, to be honest. And the clunkiness of the software at times just makes you think, no, I'll stick with the bigger device, the more full device. I mean, it's stuff like trying to scan a QR code and it doesn't work in the native camera app. You're just like, well, okay, so I'll have to go and download a QR code scanner rather than just scan a QR code on this, and it's double tap to open the camera. And of course, the native camera app can do that QR code scanning. So I just think there's so many things where Bigme is behind, certainly a company like Samsung, but just by giving you maybe a more stock Android experience at times, or maybe spending a bit more time developing and making sure those workflows are possible on there, they could have made that better. But if I then go back to the point I was making about the Palma, was that actually just zipping around the phone is a much faster experience, you can see it's every single time it's a step behind. Okay, did I even hit the Otter button there? Yeah, and I don't know whether it is that because it's the first time booting it. So close Otter, close everything on both, shall I? So they both get a fair chance. Otter's ready to go. You can see the difference is huge. And yeah, stuff like that, notification tray, I never have that issue on the Palma. Well, I haven't so far anyway. I just feel like for all the things that I do on the go, things like Google Drive and all the things that I do on the go, this wasn't quite cutting it. It was nice. However, for simply reading, which is your main use case on this, Kindle, yeah, still boots up faster here on the Palma. Look, I'm ready to read already on the Palma. Kindle works well once you're in it, and it's really, really good. I just think there's just so many of those things missing. So what else is missing? Why is it not quite as good as the Palma, apart from the key inclusion of being a phone? The fingerprint reader is missing. The latest Kaleido-free screen is missing. It's this very old school Kaleido Plus, I think it's called. The colors are very washed out, and people look at this and say, oh, that's interesting. You've got a black and white phone. You just don't notice the color at first. The color is very pixelated. It's, what is it, like 100 ppi or something like that in color. Less than 100, I think it's like 96 ppi or something like that. Incredibly pixelated, incredibly washed out color. Lots of ghosting in the color areas there. You can see on the IMDb logo. And one single front light as well. So there's generally a more flawed device, really. I actually think it's a lovely size. I actually think it's just right. The page turn buttons are exactly where my thumb wants to be. If there was a thumbprint reader maybe down there, and then that was my page turn buttons, I think I would really, really enjoy this. I think that probably, talking about the price of this is about £200 for the, and a 10% discount on that. So essentially somewhere in the region of £180 can get you the black and white version of this. I think that might be a good shout because the color's not up too much on it. So if you're looking for, okay, you've got a good balance then, because you can say, well, I'll use this like a Palma in that I'm basically only doing Kindle, maybe using it as my voice transcriber. So it opened up quite quickly into Kindle there when it was already open. I'm basically just using Kindle, and I'm basically going to use it in airplane mode with everything off until I do need to make a call or need to get access to something on the internet. I can actually see it's quite compelling. And honestly, if I was right now buying one of the two myself, I think I'd go the Bigme HiBreak simply because it could be the phone when I wanted it to be. And I could decide, no, this big attention sapping device, I'm going to leave it at home. And I'm going to just take the HiBreak, and my wife could still get a hold of me in an emergency, and I could still look something up on the internet. I could still do the search. I could still, incidentally, if I'm using Otter, as I have done a fair bit on the Bigme HiBreak, I can still have that go up to the cloud within the Otter app, because the AI transcription happens in the cloud on Otter, rather than having to wait till I got home or till I got to some Wi-Fi and then connect up to that and have it go up to the cloud to do the transcription. So I actually think there's being a mobile phone is so many benefits over this. And I do think that everyone who's liking the Boox Palma right now, rightly so, great device, they probably have no intention of getting rid of their phone entirely. Probably the intention is to leave that phone in their bag or in their car, and that's fine. At least most of the time when they're out and about, it's not going to be with them, and just have this in their pocket for those moments when they've got time to read. I do like that as well. I do absolutely like that idea. But me, I want to be able to carry just an e-ink phone. I'm so involved in the e-ink thing that I do want the e-ink phones to be good enough that I could just do that. And I think if the Palma's that good, it might as well just be your phone. It might as well just have the ability to become a phone at the drop of a hat. And that's the point. That's the way to see the Bigme, the HiBreak, is it's an e-reader that when you need it to can become a phone, rather than the other way around, rather than a phone that can, when you need it to, can be an e-reader. So your main purpose of carrying it is your e-reader. Okay, so that's me. Treat it like an e-reader most of the time. Leave it in the airplane mode. Get better battery. Use it for things like podcasts. Essentially, buy the Bigme and use it like a Palma. And then when you need to, you have at least got a phone and you've got mobile connection should you need it. Okay, so generally it's going to be a good time with all of them. You've even got like a front-facing camera that you could potentially, if you wanted to, you could do things like voice calls on it. You could do video calls on it should you really need to. I still think the black and white one though. Oh, and there's Android 11 versus Android 13 there as well. But the software is just nowhere near as smooth. It's nowhere near as good. So I'm just going to sum this bit up in a moment after just taking, I'm just going to take myself 20 seconds or so. And I'll be back and I'll look at some comments. So ask away if you've got any questions of these. I'll sum up the bit of the smartphone and then we will we'll go on to the Bigme B1051C. Okay, so questions in the comments if you've got any more questions about these tiny e-readers, and let's move on after that. Thanks very much for joining the live stream. Don't forget to pop your questions in the chat and I'll get onto them at points during the live stream and at the end in a Q&A session. Supers are available though if you do want to highlight your question, and I will try and get to it a bit earlier. Thanks so much if you're watching this on the replay. Feel free to fire in your questions into the main comments section as well, and I'll get around to answering them. If you're watching it after a day or so, you should find it chaptered out, so feel free to skip around. I'm Kit Betsmasters and this is the Evaluate Everything show. Let's pop over to live Kit. Yeah, so a couple of questions coming then. So yeah, as I was using the HiBreak convincing. No, unfortunately. I mean, it worked. I did it, but there were just times when I was like, "Nah, I'm needing the big computer, essentially the pocket powerhouse that is the Z Fold of the world." And that's why I didn't buy in the end. I didn't buy a Z Fold 6 this year because I was wanting to go over to the HiBreak, and I did, and I enjoyed it, and it changed a lot of my habits actually. But there have been times recently when I think like, okay, I just want to not have my Z Fold with me because I'm doing too much checking. I'm doing too much like playing the casino of refreshing a feed or something like, what will I get next? What will YouTube serve me up next if I refresh that type of thing, which isn't really good for you. And instead, when you've got this in your pocket, you don't think, oh, I don't even think I have YouTube installed on it. No, I don't. You don't think I'll open up YouTube. You think I'll read a few pages. Same with this. However, when you've got this, you do need to have a phone with you. And I tried, just to continue your question, I tried having a smaller smartphone for things like that. But again, I found myself trying to do smartphone things on the small smartphone. And it could be a hotspot for this, but I just don't think that's what this is for. And I think that's not why people have fallen in love with the Palma. I think people have fallen in love with it because it just isn't a phone. And a lot of people, when you talk about this, a lot of people say, I don't want it to be a phone. A lot of people say they're not interested in it having 4G and calls because they want something which is totally different. And they don't want to give up their phone. And I think they don't want to give up their iPhone or their Samsung or any other kind of ecosystem that they're fully involved in. So not yet. The HiBreak, this one wasn't convincing for me. Hopefully the HiBreak 2 will be. We'll see. And hopefully Palma phone or something in this form factor, a Go phone or something, a Boox phone, I think would be incredible. It would just have it. Please, that software, please just somebody just put these two together and make the Palma phone. It would be quite incredible. And Jay, the Z Fold is pen enabled yet? I wish there was a Palma Note or whatever had an email layer. Absolutely. this is pretty much the size of the Samsung Note. This is like S20, so quite an old Samsung, but just, yeah, give me the little garaged S Pen from this, you know, pop that in there. That would be great, wouldn't it? And I'd love it if it was a foldable ink as well. Foldable ink probably will come in the near future, but I do think that this would be an ideal thing here. You know, and that's another thing I didn't quite mention, actually. I don't think there is a way, maybe somebody can tell me, although there is Boox Drop on this, I don't think there is a way to just see all of your notes from all of your Boox devices. I don't think there's a way to see all of your notes actually on the device, on the Palma, which I think is a shame, really. So let's go to Boox Drop now. Yeah, you can go, this is just really about receiving files onto here rather than being able to see all of your, some things that I've sent in the past, rather than be able to see all of your notes. You can't, there isn't just your notes on here, whereas Bigme just did automatically give you in Bigme V to T. You can see here my point. It's great when it works. Clear everything out. Bigme did give you an app where you can see all of your things there. They also have this. I mean, I can install the Boox app, I suppose. I just don't think I've ever done that. So yes, that's the workaround, isn't it? Boox does have its own little thing. Maybe it doesn't. No, it must not have its own little app. You could go to your web app. You could go to the Boox web app and sign in. But so here, it didn't work. Oh no, it was there. You can definitely had it working just the other day when I was checking this. You can see the frustration, right? So it is there. It has worked. I have no idea why it stopped working right now as well. Okay, a couple more things. Be scared to drop these. Are repairs available? Yes, I think so. It's probably somebody's going to look at this and be like, what on earth have you given me? I can fit an LCD screen to it if you like, but I can't necessarily repair that e-ink screen maybe. Yeah, they're quite robust though. And, you know, go for it in the case. I quite like them out of the case. And I quite like, you know, they're not as precious devices as some of the more expensive phones you can get. Palma's as close to the excellence as Tab Ultra C Pro is close to, but there are a few steps to walk. Yeah, I don't disagree there, Pedro. Absolutely. So let's, you know, some people want to walk them with Boox and some people want to wait for that. Is the Super Refresh on the Palma 2 similar to Note Air 3C? Yes, it is. It's the same idea. It works brilliant, but because it's not got color, it's even better. It's even clearer because the color does tend to, you do tend to find the color is more difficult with ghosting. So just last little bit about these phones then, just sum it up. What should you choose if? Okay, so hopefully if you're looking at this and thinking, gosh, okay, that's useful, but I just want to decide I want one of these, which one should I get, Kit? You tell us. Okay, this is how you're going to decide. Okay, so the new Palma is the ideal choice if you want the best, the most clearest ink quality and the most smartphone-like performance. But if you aren't interested in using mobile data, it really is the nicest reader. It's the nicest user experience of the bunch. But if you don't need mobile data, then go for it. It's also a good choice if that price is acceptable to you. But if that price is not so acceptable to you, then you want to go for one of the less expensive ones. If the fingerprint reader is not important to you, then you can go for the Palma 1. And actually, the experience of using the Palma 1, same software. Okay, it's Android 11, so it's not the same software, in fact, but the skin on top is very, very much the same. Using it, the performance of it is pretty much just as good. It's slightly slower, but not as much slower as the Bigme was. It's a good choice if the price is more acceptable to you to lose that fingerprint reader. So if you don't need the fingerprint reader, then you can go down, save 30 quid basically to go down to the Palma one, which they're still selling. If you must have an e-ink phone now, then go with the Bigme HiBreak, but probably go with the black and white. But be aware you're sacrificing that user experience and the actual overall, I think, quality and build of the device as well. But Bigme is the choice if you right now need an e-ink phone with Google Play. You can get the Hisenses that are out there, but I think Hisense have stopped making phones. So you'll be buying ones that have a limited length of time to be supported. And you'll be doing similar workarounds than you were with the Moa. And lastly, if you're just interested to go for, you want this experience, but you don't want to commit heavily to it, if you're just curious about that pocket size e-reader, whether it fits into your lifestyle, then get the Moa now. Just don't need to put a pin into it, sign into it, or sideload some books onto it, just some EPUB files or whatever you want to read. And you get a good experience of having that pocket-sized e-reader, and you can find out whether that really works. You can find out whether people just try and put me off in the middle of my chat, don't they? I think I just did one, Alexandra. You can find out whether it fits into your lifestyle to have a pocket-sized e-reader, and then maybe watch the market for the next couple of years and see if actually you've got a better choice over e-ink phones, and whether then you'll know whether it fits into your lifestyle or not. So if you're curious, 80 quid from AliExpress gets you into this experience, and I don't think you'll regret it, really. I don't think you'll either find out no, you don't need it, or you'll find out that actually you quite like that. Be aware that you will have to install things by what's called an APK, which is actually getting the install file onto the phone itself, onto the device itself. But the first APK you should get is the Aurora Store, and then the Aurora Store will be very much like a app store experience there for you to find things that you do want to use there as well. But yeah, I like all of these. There's a big thumbs up from me. The Palma 2 is really, really good. One thing that's very interesting to me is when I first got a Palma, when they sent me this, I wondered what it was all about. I wondered, why have they done this? What's the purpose they've gone for this? Where does this sit in the world of e-readers? I wondered, why? Why was this a thing? But then as people used it, they actually found a use case for it. And it's really people making and consuming content on TikTok that's really made this thing take off. It really has done well. And actually my most viewed video, full stop, is actually a TikTok with this one, talking about the auto dimming lights and auto brightening lights, which in this live stream have totally failed to be demonstrated. My most viewed video has got about 800,000 views, and it's a TikTok about the Palma. And I think that's, people are interested in, what is this thing? People are asking, like, how come it takes color photos if it's got an e-ink black and white screen? And like questions like that, which seem a bit silly when you say it in that way. What is this, and where can it fit into my life? And people found a use case for it, and I think that is why it's compelling. It's not about it being like, oh, we need to make an e-ink phone because we think there's a place in the market for that. I think they were maybe aiming to make an e-ink phone, but by making this, they've made a particular category of device that maybe didn't exist before, and it is being compelling, and people are interested, and people are buying them. And I think that's why I care, and I've found a place for them. And these things certainly have a place in my life yet. Cool. I'm going to come back in just a few moments, and I'm just going to get set up because I'm going to do the Bigme B1051C next, and I'm going to compare that to a few devices to get your questions all lined up for the Bigme B1051C. Okay. Give myself just a few minutes. Thanks so much for watching. If you're here towards the end of the live stream, then I hope it's fair to say that you find this content valuable. I have found a way to offer even more value to you. If you want to go deeper and also to support the channel even more going forwards, channel memberships are a great way to get involved in more of a community and more of a conversational form of content. The key benefits to becoming an Evaluate Everything member are members only live streams where I'll answer your questions and give you my insights into the devices that I'm evaluating even before I've published a full review. So if you do want a bit of a preview of the points that are going to make it into the full review before I've even been able to shoot or edit those videos, you can get involved with that. You can ask questions and request demos and really just discuss and influence the content as it goes forward. I really hope this community grows into a place where we can have a meaningful discussion around these devices that I evaluate. There'll also be community posts for members only discussions, and membership also means that your questions and comments are highlighted to me in my memberships area. There's no change to what I'm offering here for free, but here's an open invite for you to go deeper and help me to evaluate everything. Back to the live. Cool, so this is the Bigme B1051C, and Tao, who makes great videos and has just released his drawing review of the Note F4C, asked, what's the meaning of that naming convention? And I guess the 10 refers to the size. I have no idea why they felt the need a 5.1 afterwards. But there we are. Well, this is what we have right now from Bigme. And they've gone away from, I'm going to compare it to the Inknote X in a little while. But I'm just first of all going to talk to you about some of my thoughts about it already. Just to say one thing about that membership message that I recorded probably over a year ago now, this channel definitely has grown into that kind of community where we can have that discussion. And I really do value your input into the content, so go ahead and fire on. Please, it's really, really great to just to hear what you guys think, and that really influences what I do here on this channel. So thank you very much, whether you're a member or not. First thoughts then. What have I been thinking about as I've been working with this thing for the last few days? I've just recorded the members testing footage. I've found immediately I was finding it quite sort of not jolty, but quite jagged over one side of the screen. This left side of the screen seems to be more jagged than the right hand side. I don't know whether that's in the case only, but if you look, you see that those straight lines, they're not as straight as they are on the right hand side. So I was really surprised by that. I don't know why that is. I was thinking, is that the magnets in the case? But I honestly don't think so. I think it's just the way the pen is sampling. That one was really wobbly there. The case is quite good, incidentally, apart from the flap. It locks in quite nicely. But it did surprise me immediately. I was like, oh, this is not as satisfactory an experience of writing as I've been used to on the books, and nor is it the experience that I've been enjoying on Bigme before either. So I found that all my documents were actually in the cloud, and they're all there, all the things that I've done on Bigme before. And I was like, I had been like, where have they gone? You actually need to manually upload and sync them though. I did wonder why they have the magnetic clasp, but actually this area, if you have that clasp on, you find that that area doesn't work. You can't write in that area there. Well, now you can. So I see why they've made the loop detachable there as well. I'm not sure about that bit there. The handwriting tools are very poor. The brush and everything and the pencil, just, they don't seem anywhere near as good as their rivals. They just, I mean, they do this, you know, the lines don't tape at the end. You get a blotch. That's the brush. The ballpoint looks hardly any different to the pen. I mean, they're just, yeah, they're not as desirable to use as Remarkable or anything else really. It's just the handwriting tools are just definitely lacking. They're not giving you that kind of really lovely feel of handwriting. And yeah, Carlos, is it a glass screen? No, it's I think it is glass. I think it will be a Canva screen rather than the Mobius, but it is quite soft to the touch. It's definitely got a top layer which is quite soft. So Doesn't make a huge tappy noise, if that's what you're worried about. And it feels okay, but it's not textured like paper as well. But yeah, this just, I don't know. I mean, I think I'll talk about the pen in a little while as well, a bit more, I think. But the pen, at least they've left behind their older pen. But this pen just, don't know, it's an obvious imitation of the remarkable pen, the remarkable Marker Plus. I mean, I could literally do juggle those up and you'd be hard pressed to know which one was which. But there is a telltale sign of which one's which, and it is that one of them has the word remarkable on it. There we are. Okay. Now the Bigme has the same flat side to attach to the magnet. It's got the same looking eraser, which pushes in slightly. But the Bigme is much less satisfying. It's much less well placed to the remarkable. But also the Bigme, they also have a little indent, which is the bit where on the remarkable marker they've written remarkable, but the Bigme just have the indent and nothing written in there. I mean, that's a bit laughable, isn't it? Like, just decided to, oh, that must be an important little indent there. And it's a very similar design. And it's just like things like you look at the end of the pen and you can just see they've gone for a similar design, but they just haven't pulled it off quite as well. The remarkable one tapers almost at the very end. Yeah, it's just not as good. So there we are. I almost picked that one onto there. So yeah, the pen, it's an improvement, but this just isn't it. The whole thing just isn't it. I tested out the handwriting recognition earlier. Let's try and write a little bit neater. And then you go OCR, recognize the text. Yeah, the second time it did get it better. There we are. So a little bit of neatness and you'll be okay. What I did find out, I thought this was quite funny. So it was, as I was writing this bit here, and I found that, they have also added the same thing that Boox has. You've seen me do it a few times, which is scribble erase. But this is when I realized that it's very wobbly in that corner, very wobbly right in that corner. Look, these kind of micro jitters. But as I was writing with my italic handwriting, I found that it sees my italic writing sometimes as being the gesture for erase. So I'll see if I can emulate that now by showing you how to spell aluminium. And of course, you know how to spell aluminium. So the way we spell aluminium, I know it's aluminum if you're across the pond, right? But is you spell it the same anyway. You go AL and then you squiggle the thing and you put 2 dots on. Okay, it did it that time. That's how you spell aluminium. I'll try one more time. But sometimes when I did a few of these, it was picking up all the U's and M's and I's and things. It was picking up as being an erase, and I can't get it to imitate the thing as well. But it is like, it's not perfectly calibrated, that effect of doing the scribble erase. One thing I've also found is that OneNote works, but that Microsoft Word is not compatible. So I thought, well, this is the type of device that you'd want to use for that type of workflow. And they are bringing it with a keyboard case. But if you wanted to use Microsoft Word, that's going to be a deal breaker for some of you. Also found that on the first stroke, there is a significant delay. Now, there's a delay on a lot of devices because what they do is they actually turn the digitizer off to give you a little bit of battery saving. They turn the digitizer off and it's not sampling, therefore, so it saves battery slightly. But on the first stroke of this, it's a much longer delay than on other devices, which has surprised me as well. And the colors often within different apps, especially if I go into the Google Drive app, they often look really quite bad. And I don't know if it's going to do this. It's loaded up quite nicely there, actually. But before it was loading onto a black screen always. Let's do that again. Hasn't done that this time either. But anyway, I was getting like a fully black screen when it loaded into this, and then where there was some color, there was a significant rainbowing effect. So I'll try and point that out if I see that as we go around the device today. In large areas of color, it not being very consistent in showing the one color, like truly. It's not ghosting that I was seeing, but it's sort of inconsistent displays of color, which I'm not able to recreate right this second now, but it's definitely something that I've found. Okay, other thoughts about this? Yeah, now notes is not in recents, or it hasn't been for me. So okay, so let's go back into my notes. I'm in my note, and I'm going to go into my home again, and then I'm going to go recents, because I want to go back into that note. Notes is not in here. So one of the main uses that you're going to use an e-ink tablet for is you're going to be making notes, and then you're going to want to come out of those notes and read, or come out of those notes and find something out on the internet and go back into those notes and add to those notes. So it should be as seamless as possible to go back to the note that you had open. And it isn't. It's got to be home, notes, and then click the note you want to get back to that same place that you were making notes. And I find that to be a bit surprising, really. I think that's for a note-taking tablet, an AI note, to take you 3 presses to get back to a note is not great. Here's what I was practicing with the aluminium. Yes, it did it. It did it as a scribble erase. There we are. So that's the thing there. I also remembered that the gestures were at the bottom. So I turn the gestures back on now, and the gesture is home in the middle. It's back in the middle, sorry. It's home on the left, and then it's full screen refresh on the right. And that's absolutely fine. But on Bigme, you've got home at the top. You've got recents there, which you're used to using the little triangle, square, and circle at the bottom of an Android device. So I don't know why they haven't just gone with that, to be honest. And I quite like that Boox have the e-ink center down there all the time, if you want it to be that way. But the e-ink center is up here. So one thing, let me just go back to my notes. It'll take me a little while. One thing that I think about Bigme is that some of the frustrations that I've been having are probably because I'm back to that learning curve. I'm back nearer the start of the learning curve than I was the last time I daily drove a Bigme. So it'll be interesting when I do daily drive this, how much I do enjoy it as well. Now, just a point though, what will frustrate me is that the handwriting is not lovely. The handwriting, I find no way that I can make my handwriting look really, really nice on this device. And that is a bit of a deal breaker, really, because if you've used a Supernote or a Remarkable, handwriting is a pleasure. And that's something that I'm just not going to be able to do here, because although it's nice and accurate, it's not rendering my handwriting to be really the way that I want it. And that wobble is just meaning that all the strokes, just not what my handwriting should look like. And I do think they can improve on this. They can improve on this massively with the technology they're putting in. They have got great pen technology in here. You can just see there the accuracy. See? So I'll be turning that scribble erase off until that's better. Okay. The landscape, I found that the landscape did work, right? So I was testing this out and I was like, well, the landscape, that is definitely screen rotation on, isn't it? But it wasn't rotating. I was like, okay, was that off then? Let's test it out again. No, okay, so what's going on there? And I really got a bit frustrated because it's got a thicker bezel on one side, surely so that you can hold it like so. But yeah, I wasn't able to get it to rotate. And the rotation does work, but you've got to go into the settings and you've got to scroll down to rotation. Oh, it's on. Okay, so let's go back then. Rotation. Aha, now it's worked. So now, okay, it's the first one. Oh, So note taking can't happen in landscape then. So yeah, I mean, talk about some unfinished software there, I think, I'm afraid. Any more first thoughts, or have I said enough? So it has to be on in the settings and in that drop-down menu, and every other device you've ever seen is just one switch there. You don't need two switches, do you? You just need one switch, which is just there, and that's where it should be, and everyone's happy with it, and they know where they are. All things just got, they're just not as well implemented as you can see there. And I think this is an interesting one because I think it seems to have gone backwards in some ways from the Ink Note X, which I actually enjoyed and which I'm going to side by side a little bit later in this live stream. Although this has been a bit slower than I thought it was going to be this live stream, but that's fine. I hope you're enjoying things as well. So just a couple of questions there. Carl's obviously called out my expression of my pronunciation of aluminium. And is that offline text recognition? I don't think so. I think it's online, but I'm not entirely sure there. I suppose I could test that out really quickly, couldn't I? Turn the Wi-Fi off. Text recognize. No, it's off. Yeah, it is offline. So they've downloaded the text recognition pack. How accurate is it? What we've just done there. Not great. Yeah. Seems house. Okay. I admit my handwriting there isn't very accurate. It's going to say worse. But you know, you'd think by now especially as they've called it AI text recognition, and yeah, it's on device, but any AI worth its salt could recognize that a sentence, this seems house, is not very likely. Okay, cool. I'm gonna pause for one moment, and I'm gonna get the Note F4C out in just 30 seconds. So I just dropped the live stream for a few seconds to tell you something which might surprise you. Did you know that most of the people who watch my channel aren't actually subscribed? Even people that are regular viewers. What's that about? No worries, but really, channels like mine, it really does help with the way that robots decide who to send my videos out to. So take a moment to scroll down and check whether your button says subscribed or subscribe. If it says subscribe, then just click it and let's get back into the live stream. Cool, so I'm pretty sure that the Bigme is not the updated Kaleido 3. Because when you put them side by side, you can really see a difference between the Note F4C, that's on the left, and the Bigme B1051C. It's a mouthful, isn't it? Where are we up to? And for that reason, I think because it's not the updated Kaleido 3, for that reason, I find it difficult to recommend the Bigme over the Boox. And you can see there the speed of loading that PDF is also another reason why you might struggle. So let's go to the very first page here. It's just got a nice demonstration of the difference in color here. So let's go ahead and make sure they're both in a similar ink mode. Now that's in its automatically in its comic mode, which I think I probably put that in earlier. But let's go ahead and go back to in fact, let's get to the best that it can do, the HD256, and go back. And then here I'm on Regal and Deep, which is going to give me the best refresh. And yeah, you can see quite a large difference there between the two color renderings, I'm sure. The yellows versus these yellows. And remember, if I was to get this on the Remarkable, those yellows would really be popping. I have got it onto quite a similar setting with the two front lights, quite a balance more towards the cold end. I think I could probably make this slightly colder to try and match that. There we are. So you can see, I think this is looking much better as we go through. what you might also see is, yeah, actually the Bigme is doing a really quite good job of not displaying any color ghosting in there in this mode. We'll look at a couple of other modes in a second. Come right out of there, apologies, because the ink center's down here, this one, and up here on this one. Let's go into a faster mode now. Yeah, worse ghosting on the Bigme than on the Boox in that faster mode. And this is generally where it works better in a PDF. On the Boox, it does work better in PDF than on the Kindle app. Bits of ghosting there on both of them, but definitely worse, and definitely less saturated reds, less differentiation between different parts of the panel. So if I look more closely at this part here, I'll put it on. Let's bring this guy right up in his kitchen. What color's his walls? Well, they're kind of pinkish purple, aren't they? I think you can really see a difference there, and I do think that it doesn't just stop there, really. So I think for that reason, I think right now, if you're buying a color e-ink screen, you should definitely be looking to one of the better, the newer versions of Kaleido 3, or be going for the Remarkable with the Galley if you really, really want that experience there. I'm actually just going to turn the brightness down on the camera slightly. It's just a bit much. And I think one of the other things is that the software is so much more developed here on the Boox than it is on the Bigme. If we just go and just see the similar sort of things that we were just looking at on the Bigme, things like handwriting recognition. It's not focused on that. I'll just do a couple more lines just to give it a bit more to work with and be very scruffy. And then just do AI recognition on that and go back to a page that I hadn't done before. That is really a challenging one. Get rid of all this jazz. Text recognition. Text recognition. Yeah, so this one did give it a bit more to work with. Yeah, it got some of it, several presses to get back. It got notes within recents menu, whatever that meant. A note works forward is zenithide. It's not a word. Why would you recognize something that isn't a word? At least guess what it might be. It's just, you know, most of the things are there, you know, and really quite similar. There's an AI thing. There's an insert and an insert. There's a gestures. But they're just a little bit more developed. And Boox, as was pointed out earlier, are on a bit of a path as well still. They're not quite there yet. But Bigme are further along that path. The B1051C, the Bigme, is probably the more powerful device. I did want to run some benchmarks, but I haven't done the Geekbench 6 on the Note Air 4C yet. But Geekbench 6 just wouldn't install on this. And there's a couple of things that just wouldn't install on the Bigme for some reason. I have no idea why. So I went and searched for a benchmark, or I searched for Geekbench 6 rather, and I found it. There we go. Your device isn't compatible with this. So what's going on there? And also I thought, well, okay, I was saying that earlier, wasn't I, that Microsoft Word, I'd love to demonstrate Microsoft Word for you today. But no, it wasn't compatible with the device either. I mean, it's just stuff like the Wi-Fi icon there. Like it looked like it was on to me before when I looked at it there. It's just not quite as well considered, not quite as well refined as Boox, which isn't a very well refined thing. Oh, it did say it isn't. No, yeah, this tablet isn't compatible with this app, although it does seem to be installing it now. So there we go. That for some reason it just wouldn't. I couldn't even search it on this device before, but maybe that will work now, which would be nice. And yeah, I was going to go ahead and do some typing demonstrations on it, which I will still do just a little bit later. One other thing, yeah, it's got Word on it now. Let's just check that's going to open. No. Has it totally froze? I think that installing Word has. Oh, now we're in it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Word seems to be running. Okay. Yeah. I'll try things. I'll try out this now, but at least it has installed. I don't know why it didn't install before. Who knows? But I wanted to show you the CBZ that I downloaded of Watchmen. There it is. And it opens up into this app, and I have no idea what this app is. I have nowhere to choose this. So eReader, which is the Bigme PDF book reader thing, it can't load CBZs, which is a bit disappointing. And they do load into the Boox eReader. And let's just go, while we're talking about the software, let's just go ahead and we'll go to the reader software here, and we'll load up the Hasselblad one. Because one thing I did notice, which was actually really nice about this, and see now you can choose eReader's missing. Oh, open with eReader. Okay, they're fine. Yeah, sorry, pardon me. So eReader, and actually this photo does look really good here on the Bigme. It really does. It can also look good on the Boox, but right now this Boox is not in its best mode. It's in its speed mode. We changed that a little while ago. And actually, I think honestly, looking at these side by side, I think possibly the Bigme's done the better job with that. Perhaps I could fiddle with the dark color mode or whatever in here. Take out vivid maybe. Put it back into optimal. It's too dark then, isn't it? Yeah. I think I could probably do some tinkering to get this better, but actually, Bigme, I did notice that really nice job of rendering this lovely photo here. Really crisp. Really does look good. What mode are we in here? Are we in our very best? Don't even know that we are. I think it might even get even better than this. I can just press that button, eh? I keep accidentally swiping for that one. Who knows? It's being a bit frustrating, isn't it? I just can't seem to grab that e-ink center right now for some reason. I mean, you can probably hear my frustration, can't you, with it at times. Some really good things, and then those little things that you're just like, gosh, what is going on? But eReader does have good things. It does have good formatting options. None quite as good as the article mode, for instance, but it does have good formatting options. It does also allow you to do a split view, like two docs together, current doc and another doc, or a doc and a notepad. So that's a really great feature that, there we are. That is a really great feature that worked earlier And now it's just like, you know, this is the thing. I mean, these things, you want to rely on them. There we go, dock and another notepad. And it is the same notepad. It's opened the same notepad that I had earlier on. But now what's it doing with the... Yeah, whereas let's go and do the same thing over here in eReader. You know, you make it hard to recommend when this is the situation. There we are, ready to go. Now we've got the notepad and we've got the document, all looking good, all ready to go. Whereas this is loading here. So I'm going to leave it at that for that comparison. I think you probably... So I'm going to leave it at that for that comparison. I think you probably get where I stand on whether you should buy the B1051C or the Note Air 4C, which is a serious contender for my top recommendation for any e-ink tablet. More things on that as well. Let's go ahead and look through a couple of points quickly. I'm going to get this back to... I might even just give it a full-on reboot, just to, you know, it's been going all day, fair enough, but you know, there's times when you have to reboot computers to get their memory back. And I'll look through a couple of comments as well. And undecided which e-ink to get for a newbie to e-ink. Looking through so many options. There's lots of options, I agree. Probably a good shout to start would be the Go 10.3. The Boox one. That's the black and white one. It's definitely going to give you a really nice experience of, you know, what e-ink can do, or the Note Air 4C if you're interested in having color, or if you want one of the smaller ones, then there are loads out there as well. I think the Scribe is also a good place to start because it's not so expensive. Late to the stream again, may have been answered already. Is there any reason to go with Bigme, given it seems not only subpar, but also more expensive than the 4C? So that's something that I'm going to sort of say, I was intending to say later about Bigme, I'll just say it now, is, yeah, Bigme, they've got this difficulty that they're kind of making things which look a lot like their competitors and have the same features as their competitors, but then tend to be less refined. And that's a real issue because they aren't cheaper. So they either have to do what their competitors are doing but better, which they're not, or they have to be the less expensive option, and they're not. So I think that's the thing. That I think they really need to get their own design language. They really need to get their own kind of look. You know, I've complained for ages, so have other reviewers, about the older Bigme pen. This is the pen from the Inknote X, and we're going to do the Inknote X comparison next. So hold your horses for that, which is the previous Bigme. I did have a good time on this, the previous Bigme, I must admit. And as I said, there are things which are like, well, this is it's a learning curve thing. Sometimes the reason why you don't have a great time on the Bigme device is like, it's a learning curve thing. It's like, well, how do you do that on Bigme? I'm used to doing that on Boox, for example. I'm used to doing that on any other tablet, on an iPad or whatever. And you're like, how do I do that? And it gets frustrating. But this was like, let's make it look like the Remarkable but kind of black, or actually this was going, the previous ones were remarkable looking devices, very plasticky though. This was going towards a more Note Air look, and this thing arrives and I think, wow, it's finally got a different look to everything else. It's got the wide bezel on the left for holding it in portrait. It's got the wide bezel on the right for holding it in landscape. And I turn it over and it's got an orange stripe across the back, which is the signature of the Boox Note series. And you just think, why would you? So they really need their own design language. They really need to differentiate themselves. And I think they were thinking that the AI Note thing would differentiate themselves, but it just isn't, you know, it just really is having put a Chat GPT app on it, and it isn't really the thing. So yeah, I don't disagree. It's more expensive and yeah, not as refined. Just do it, Julie. You know, go for it. Just splash out. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but no, I think sometimes it's okay to say, "Oh, I want the thing," and just get it. Have you heard from Bigme about future updates fixing those bugs? Looks like the hardware's well put together. But yeah, that's what we all really often say about Bigme is that the hardware's fine, and it's fine. It's not mind blowing. But in this case, when you compared that to the Boox a moment ago, it doesn't have the very latest screen. It does seem to be a bit of an improvement on this screen. I'll go into my notes here. I can get exactly the same file up. Where are my notes? In here somewhere. Just there it is. Here's one of the top ones. But you can see here, and I drew that on this device, but it looks better over here on the newer device. It's not just the front lighting, which are roughly in the same positions, but it definitely, the screen looks whiter and brighter, but not quite as good as the Boox one looks. And they've changed things. They've changed things that the wrong things to change. Like, I don't think anyone was complaining about the cases, but they changed the case. I don't think anyone was complaining that actually having this case wrap right around the device was not a lot wrong with that. But no, the case they've changed to, yeah, sure, it's thinner, it's a bit sleeker, but they've added this annoying magnetic detachable strap thing. And that allows it to sit up in a position so you can type in it landscape or use it landscape. But if you wanted to type in it landscape, you'd probably buy the keyboard case, which I will, you know, hopefully get and do a good look at that as well. And then the auto rotate function doesn't work. So you've got a case that allows you to do it landscape, but then I can't get it to reliably rotate, and it doesn't seem to rotate in the Notes app. So yeah. Timothy, tell us about that, and we'll talk about that towards the end. What's wrong with it? So, you know, they've changed the wrong things. It is, though, it is nice and thin for this kind of device. And if it's the rival for the Tab Ultra C, which I will get out just towards the end, then, you know, they have managed to make a thin version of that. I just think they need to really look at someone who's got a lot of experience in producing really attractive devices, and they need to get them on their books, and they need to get them working on a really unique Bigme design language. That would be worth them spending that R&D in. Yeah. Yeah, we've looked at the stylus being very similar to the Remarkable 2 stylus as well. It's just, you know, it's, yeah, there we are. So I think that they're selling their devices based on a spec sheet rather than selling their devices based on a user experience. You know, there's the old saying in marketing, which is don't sell a mattress, sell a good night's sleep. You know, don't sell, okay, this is 128 gigabytes of RAM. The Boox Note Air 4C is only 64, sorry, pardon me. This is 128 gigabytes of storage. The Boox Note Air 4C is 64 gigabytes of storage. But then if using this is frustrating, then you're never going to get to the point where you fill those 128 gigabytes of storage, are you? So, you know, that's what they're getting wrong here. And I just think that this has really surprised me, because actually, let's say this was drawn on the Inknote X over here. I've not got pinch to zoom on. I guess I've got gestures off, have I? No, is there just no pinch to zoom? Zoom right into these lines. I just don't think that I would be able to make these kind of clean, nice, crisp lines without on this device right now. It just seems to be far more wobbly than these lines are that I'm seeing on there. So it seems in some ways to have gone backwards. And actually the Inknote X was, I felt, like a really good offering from Bigme there. And that's the thing. I'm just a bit surprised with that. Yeah. So, and they have a real opportunity here. And we spent a lot of the start of this live stream saying that actually, if I was to buy a phone-sized e-reader, I'd probably buy a Bigme HiBreak right now. And the reason for that is because it can just be a phone as well, should you need to. So it is primarily an e-reader, but if you want it to just be a phone, it can be. If you want it to, you know, be a passable phone, then it can be. And then they could have a really nice ecosystem. And yeah, they've got that app as I showed, but it crashed. You know, they've got the app that can see all of your notes on this phone, whatever's on the AI notes, whatever's on your Bigme note-taking tablet will be on the phone as well. But the app kept crashing. So yeah, it's just, they could be, you know, you could get into Bigme because they're the one company that's giving you an e-ink phone, and then decide I'll get a larger e-ink tablet. Whereas there's just so much that persuades you that's not the right option here. It should be seamless, and I think they're not doing things of their own. They're doing other people's things, and they're not doing them as well. So there we are. Those are the thoughts I have about the direction that Bigme are going right now. And yeah, I'm finding it hard to find reasons to recommend Bigme above anybody for any reason. Lastly, let's talk about the Tab Ultra C Pro, and let's look at the Bigme in its typing mode, because this is Bigme's entry, which will have a keyboard case. And it's a very similar keyboard case to what is available on the Boox Tab Ultra C Pro. And this Boox Tab Ultra C Pro is the previous generation of Kaleido free. So we are seeing apples and apples here. We are seeing a comparison of the two screens. And I can pop this up into its mode like this. And I did have this working, incidentally, earlier on. It was working in landscape mode. It's gone to landscape mode now. That's at least that. So clearly notes just can't work in landscape mode, which is, oh dear, apps in landscape mode. And where is docs? There it is. And yeah, then I'm just doing a little bit of how is typing on. I'll bring in the Bluetooth keyboard and pop that in there. And at the same time on this thing, I'll get up Google Docs as well. Find it. Need to update, do I? Well, I can actually just use it without, can I? It seems that way. Okay. So I don't even know what e-ink mode I'm in. I'm in ultra fast, okay. But generally you don't need to. Generally you don't need to check which ink mode you're in on the Boox, because it generally just works well even in balance. So it was really quite good, really. And then if I just type a little bit on this, yeah, it has. I've just turned it on and it has recognized connected without, you know, without having to do it again. So that's good. So I paired it earlier, and it has it's come back to the same place, and that's fine. That's good actually. That's not just fine. That's been really good. So on custom, it's on extreme. I think it's remembered to go into that mode with this app, and generally it's pretty quick. It does seem to be like it goes. Just make sure that it's focused on that bit for you for a moment. When it moves, there's a kind of like a sort of half contrast, slight sort of lag there, but which I don't absolutely love. And I think the Boox is doing a better job of clearing that out more quickly. So I think that yeah, Boox is better for typing in this case. I think the speed of the Boox is doing a better job. And that is likely because the screen with the Boox Superfresh is just able to run that little bit quicker. So I would say that's the case there. And I think this comparison is going to make more sense when Bigme have their keyboard case out. But from what I can see, it looks really quite similar to the Boox keyboard case as well. But if I just go and I just do that same comparison I did with the Note F4C, because we've now got a bit more of a fair comparison. There we are. It did its auto rotate just fine there. And I get up that same PDF, if I've got it on here. I tend to leave the auto rotate disabled on Boox devices anyway, but just because I can just choose there. So you've got a whole menu there. That rotate isn't just auto rotate on or off. It's all the rotation options. Sorry, it's all the rotation options there, rather than just be rotate on and off and then it doesn't work. So you're never left in the dark that you can't actually make it go to the orientation you want it to. And then go into my library and bring up Watchman and just really show you. So same generation of Kaleido 3. Library again, Watchman. Let's go back. Yeah, we're on the same page there actually. Now, I mean, that just looks way better here on the Tab Ultra C Pro. Oh, and yeah. So you can see on here the difference between the wall and the floor. So you auto rotate. Not so great there. But I turned auto rotate off. I did. The difference between the wall and the floor here. Oh, I know why this is. It's because this Tab Ultra C Pro has the annoying thing in the keyboard case that sometimes you press a button with the keyboard and it does something on the tablet when you've got it in that tablet mode. Let's go into an HD mode. Why not? And show you what it looks like. And you can see the difference between the wall and the floor, importantly. And then over here with the Bigme, let's leave it out of its keyboard case to save me accidentally pressing this. And that's a design flaw with the Boox. Absolutely it is. But you really can't tell the difference between the color of the wall, certainly not very well, and the color of the floor. And then this blue compared to this kind of pinkish color over here. Way more ghosting across here. But I'm in a fast mode here, so we've got to compare apples with apples. Go back to eReader. So HD mode if you like as well. Yeah, so just a bit darker here on the skin tones. Just a bit more distinction between the different colors, really. But both doing a nice job of rendering actually there. Blue's a bit deeper on the Bigme this time. Or the blue's much better on the Bigme that time. Okay. Now let's look at the same thing on the Kindle. Yeah, now I found that there was just no way to get this to work without any rendering issues. You see this, all this ghosting on here. I found a way to reduce that on here, which is to basically be in a Regal or an HD mode and increase the animation filter time. That was suggested to me on Boox. And so now I can make the Kindle app or any app that's got large areas of color look really good with that little hack. And you've got to enjoy coloring. You really have to enjoy any of these Boox devices, to be honest. You really have to be happy that you're going to have to do some of that tinkering. On the same panel. You can see I found no way to get rid of that ghosting here so far on the Bigme. If I do, I will be reporting that. I will change these things here as well. Okay, so much better performance there on the Tab Ultra C Pro, isn't there? Okay, that's my stuff that I have planned. Any questions at all about the Bigme 1051C? I mean, I hope that Bigme can sort these things out and you know, justify that larger price tag. You know, but at the minute, like, it's just like, hey, we've got a device that looks quite similar and it has the same spec sheet and has a lot of the same features. But when you use those features, they're not working quite as well. And yeah, if they want to justify that price tag, for me, it's going to be about, right, okay, I can see it if my life is this, that I've got my e-ink phone and it's really seamlessly interacts with my e-ink tablet at this size. And I've got my all-in-one PC they sell, the 251, which, you know, don't probably buy the all-in-one PC because the PC hardware will be outdated quicker than the display hardware will be by just the display. But, you know, it could be that could have their own proprietary software on it, obviously not Windows, like use Windows, of course, but they could have their own software on that where all of it syncs seamlessly. All of it links together, and you know, you've got those three things. You know, you've got your little world of Bigme, if you like, maybe a little e-reader as well, to go with your phone and fill one of those gaps. But they don't, and they don't work seamlessly, as you've seen there, and they aren't polished software. And I just think that, you know, don't give us another device of this size without making sure that when I test it out here, live, unedited, no cuts, no you know, no ability to hide anything. Not that I try and hide anything, but I certainly don't want to give you an edited video where I'm like pulling my hair out trying to find where certain things are in the menus. But, you know, make sure that it's absolutely seamless. Make sure that it just works together with the rest of the ecosystem really, really well. So there we go. What's the best? Boox Go versus this versus Note F4C. Well, I don't think this is in the running. So it is Note F4C, and my Amaro, like, you've got to look at it like this. What do you want? It's not what is best entirely, but what feature set do you want? And right now, between the 4C and the Go 10.3, well, they're very different. Do you want color, and do you want front light, and do you want fingerprint reader, and do you want a TF card slot? If you don't want those things massively, then save yourself £120 and get the Go. So And I do think for most people, that's probably the case, that the Go will make more sense than these ones. I haven't watched all the reviews. I'm not sure if I want to wait for a black and white Air 4 anymore. Color plus BSR plus front light seems like a winning combo, even if the battery life is lacking. Yeah, it is a winning combo, and that is a great device, I think. I've got something to say about the drawing on it, which will be in a video soon. I did not enjoy drawing on it the other day, unfortunately, because I really enjoyed drawing on the Boox Air 3C, but it just didn't perform like I expected it to, and that was a shame. So we will see. I think that will probably be fixed in firmwares, but again, similarly, that is, Boox have that same issue, that they also need to make themselves more polished, and they need to not have the criticisms that they get, and rightly so sometimes. And you saw there, I can't remember what it was doing in there that I was getting frustrated with the Tab Ultra C. Oh yeah, the touching of the keyboards when it was in its tablet mode. They need to polish things, but there are fewer of those now on Boox than there are on Bigme, and these are really the only two options in your full Android with the Google Play Store in e-ink. And once you have that, it's difficult to go back to something that doesn't have the Google Play Store. Lastly, let's talk about Timothy's got some issues with his Palma. Let's have a little look through those. What's the issues then? Top speaker doesn't seem to work. Turn off HD audio to get Bluetooth audio to work at all. I haven't used the Bluetooth audio yet. I did use it on the previous one though. So does the top speaker work then? Let's go and find something to play.
Patty Smith. Read by Patty Smith. A mortal folly comes over the world. Antonin Artaud.
I think you might be right. I think that might be the case, that only the bottom speaker is firing there.
Way out west. It was well past midnight when we pulled up in front of the Dream Motel.
So what you need to do is you need to pop into the settings, and you want to come FAQ and feedback, and you want to plus, and you'll open a chat with one of the Boox people, and you want to go ahead and put your problems you're having, and they will either tell you why you can't do them, or they'll tell you what the fix is. And often as not, if there is something that you can't do on there and you've noticed it and you're like frustrated with it, then they will improve that and change that later. Nobody's promising that, but again, this is the thing, that they are, somebody pointed out earlier on, they are on a journey in terms of improving their software, and they're not perfect yet. They are the closest thing. Palma, yeah, it's close to excellence as Tab Ultra C Pro is close to, but there are a few steps to walk yet. So absolutely, this is the point. Your experience in that as well. I had to turn off HD audio to get Bluetooth audio to work. I can't save my OneDrive files to the device because the save button doesn't work. So I haven't got anything like on Bluetooth to just to hand. You can't save OneDrive files to the device because the save button doesn't work. So if I'm in Word, then I don't think I've signed into my Word yet. No, I haven't. But I have used, for instance, OneNote here. And that has, my changes I've made have synced up with the cloud. So it's obviously not a global like Microsoft issue that is the issue there. But again, I would pop that in there. Is the save button doesn't work just in the OneDrive app, or is it in one of the Microsoft apps? And then lastly, Chat GPT voice mode doesn't work. Logging into OneDrive was very difficult, and keyboard settings are very frustrating. Yeah, the keyboard settings, I certainly know what you're talking about. You'll notice I've installed Gboard. I actually think the Boox keyboard is very good for the tablets. If I go into writing something, and then I'm in here, I can change all my keyboard settings in here, you see. Now the Onyx keyboard does have its flaws. I wish it had glide to type, but the keyboard settings, it sometimes, yes, I don't think it did on this time with this, But in the past Boox devices, I've had to like really force them to stop making Chinese things. So my tip for you is to go for Gboard essentially. You'll find that a lot more like what you're used to. Logging to OneDrive was very difficult. So I've found now Microsoft does work okay onto this. I don't know whether that was, is that something that logging onto OneDrive on any Android for you or your system, is it your school or your professional system that's done that as well? Because maybe you need to get Azure or Microsoft Authenticator or something like that running on it before you can actually log into certain more locked down OneDrive things. And then ChatGPT voice mode. Again, I haven't got the ChatGPT app on here yet, but the voice that I've been using in Otter does work just fine. I'll go ahead and I'll install ChatGPT. Why? Because I'm interested. Don't you hate the Google Play Store having the sponsored thing and making you think that something is there? Very quick to install that, wasn't it? Just sign up. Okay, should be in.
Hey, what's up? Feel free to ask me about anything that's on your mind. I'm ready to go.
So we're just having some issues with the new Boox Palma in voice mode. Is that something that you have any experience with? Oh yeah. Oh, I did say we're just having some difficulty with ChatGPT in voice mode. Is that something you can help with?
It sounds like you're feeling... I'm just a virtual assistant. That's right. I'm here to help out, chat, or just keep you company whenever you need. What can I do for you today?
I'll just ask you a question then. What's a good tactic in 11-a-side football?
I'm really sorry to hear that. Breakups are tough.
Whoa.
It's okay to feel upset and take...
Doesn't seem to have worked well at all, no, does it? Tell me your best advice for tactics.
There's no need to apologize. It's completely okay.
Yeah, it did hear that, but then it thought that was. But surely this isn't Boox's fault, in my opinion. This is something wrong with ChatGPT 4.0 on this particular set of hardware. You can't make one you can't make one device work automatically well with every single app. This is surprising though, because this is working so well on the Samsung. Is it that the transcription isn't very good? Is the microphone not working great?
Absolutely. I'll be right here.
No, so it is picking up all the transcription. So it's not that. There's something's going wrong inside this app rather than here. It's whether it's that OpenAI haven't made their device for this kind of generation of slightly older chipset that they have in these things. But certainly my transcriptions for Otter were looking just fine. I've managed to use that okay. I mean, perhaps you just need to listen back to the quality of that audio. Like, is it terrible quality audio? Because that will tell us something about it. Play. Based on that user experience. Experiencing is remembering some of the ways that you have to do things on Bigme. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, I remember that. That's the way. That's acceptable microphone quality there. So I think the hardware's just there. But it did, yeah, it was saying random things, but it was getting this, it was getting the accurate questions that I was doing. So who knows? There we are. So it kept, so you're talking about your OneDrive thing. I kept rejecting my login saying I need a business email to run SharePoint, but I was logging into OneDrive. Yeah, I suppose OneDrive and SharePoint are the same thing. Yeah, I'm wondering whether it's like the work mode. So do you tend to log in with like, is it Microsoft Azure or company portal is the other one? I haven't, that isn't the right one then. Is it company portal? So try that. I think if it's your business address, it might be set up with like business permissions. Intune, Intune company portal is the one that you might want to get hold of. Yeah, and there is also on the Boox tablets, there is a work mode option in app options. So wherever that is on here, there's an app management, isn't there somewhere? Apps and notifications. Oh, smart button. And then work profile here. You might need to enable work profile. That will let you have 2 different instances of Microsoft apps and any app actually. Okay, so you did get there as well. But it might be a case of going in and changing some of these settings within the apps actually here. When I have had issues logging into Microsoft things on certain devices, but not just Boox devices either. You know, I have had it on Boox devices. I have had it on you know, other companies' devices as well. So it was just, you know, I think sometimes I think Microsoft is a bit, you know, a little bit difficult at getting logged in. Yeah, I'm glad to. I just was really interested because actually I've been saying that this is quite a polished device by comparison. Good. It wasn't just you. Yeah. And as I say, they're quite good with that feedback stuff. So do that. Glad. Thanks, Nizoni. Thanks for spending the entire time with me. And yeah, it did eventually let you log in. So that's good. You got there in the end, and all is well that ends well. And let's end this stream well. Then thank you very, very much for spending these last couple of hours with me looking at e-ink devices. Let me know any comments and questions in the future as well, because it always helps to inform the content. And I will see you again soon with some more videos. Yeah, there's some more videos coming out over the next few days as well already. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you all next week as well.